In the late 1960s, a shadow fell over Northern California. This wasn't just another criminal. This was an architect of terror, a phantom who craved the spotlight more than the act itself. He called himself the Zodiac, and he didn't just commit crimes. He orchestrated a campaign of fear, using the media as his stage and an entire population as his unwilling audience. His currency was not just violence, but the chilling dread of the unknown, communicated through letters, ciphers, and taunts that would baffle investigators for decades. This is the story of a killer who turned a region's fear into a national obsession. The story begins on a cold December night in 1968, on the lonely stretch of Lake Herman Road. Two teenagers, out on their first date, were discovered in their car, their lives cut short. The crime was brutal, but with no witnesses and few clues, it was initially seen as a tragic but isolated incident. 7 months later, the terror escalated. At Blue Rock Springs Park, another young couple was attacked in their car. This time, there was a survivor who described a man approaching with a flashlight, then opening fire without a word. But the real horror began less than an hour later. A calm, monotone voice called the Vallejo Police Department, confessing to both attacks. The caller gave precise details only the killer could know. The next day, 3 of the Bay Area's biggest newspapers received nearly identical, handwritten letters. The author claimed responsibility for the attacks and proved it by revealing unreleased details about the crime scenes. But he didn't stop there. Each letter contained 1/3 of a complex, 408-character cipher. He issued a chilling ultimatum: publish the cipher on the front page, or he would go on a kill rampage. The newspapers complied. The Bay Area was officially in the grip of a madman who called himself the Zodiac. The Zodiac's reign of terror reached a theatrical and horrifying peak in the fall of 1969. In broad daylight at the serene Lake Berryessa, a man wearing a bizarre, executioner-style hood approached a picnicking couple. He claimed to be an escaped convict, tied them up, and then attacked them before leaving a message on their car door. He then drove miles away to make another chillingly calm phone call to the police, reporting a double murder. Just 2 weeks later, in the upscale San Francisco neighborhood of Presidio Heights, a cab driver named Paul Stein was shot and killed. The killer was nearly caught, but a police dispatch error allowed him to melt back into the night. Days later, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle. Inside was a piece of Paul Stein's blood-soaked shirt, undeniable proof. The Zodiac had murdered in the heart of the city and was now taunting the police for their failure to capture him. Central to the Zodiac's macabre game were his ciphers. The first, the Z408, was printed across newspapers, turning the entire public into amateur cryptographers. Just a week after its publication, a high school teacher and his wife from Salinas cracked it. The message was a rambling, misspelled diatribe about collecting slaves for the afterlife. But it was the next cipher, the Z340, that would become his masterpiece of mystery. Sent in November 1969, this 340-character puzzle resisted solving for an astonishing 51 years. It was finally cracked in 2020 by a team of private citizens, a testament to the enduring power of the mystery. The decoded message was more taunting, more ego-driven, solidifying the Zodiac's image as a mastermind of psychological warfare. The Zodiac was a master media manipulator. He understood the power of the press like no killer before him. He addressed journalists by name, demanded his letters be published verbatim, and even called into a live television talk show, speaking to a famous lawyer on air while the entire Bay Area listened, terrified. He created a brand, a symbol, the cross circle, that became synonymous with fear. He turned his crimes into a public spectacle, forcing newspapers and television stations to become unwitting accomplices in his campaign of terror. He wasn't just a killer, he was a celebrity, a monster of his own making, and the public couldn't look away. Behind the scenes, law enforcement was grappling with a case unlike any other. The investigation spanned multiple jurisdictions, creating communication challenges. The Zodiac left little physical evidence, and his seemingly random victim selection made him impossible to profile. Out of thousands of persons of interest, one name consistently rose to the top: Arthur Lee Allen. The evidence against him was compelling, yet purely circumstantial. He was identified by one survivor. He owned a Zodiac brand watch, he lived near one of the crime scenes, and he made suspicious statements. However, his fingerprints and handwriting never matched the Zodiac's, and DNA tests decades later failed to link him to the letters. Allen was a strong suspect, perhaps the strongest, but the proof needed to close the case was never found. He died in 1992, taking any secrets he had to the grave. After a flurry of letters in the early 70s, The Zodiac's communications became sporadic, and by the end of the decade, they stopped altogether. He simply vanished. But the mystery did not. The Zodiac Killer became a modern myth, a ghost in the machine of American true crime. In the digital age, his ciphers and letters are analyzed by a global community of online sleuths. The case files, once locked away, are now scrutinized by millions on the internet. He has inspired books, movies, and countless theories, ensuring his reign of terror continues in our collective consciousness. The man may be gone, but the Zodiac, the symbol he so carefully crafted, remains an unsolved and haunting puzzle, a chilling reminder that some shadows never fade.